Colonial Williamsburg is a town-sized living history museum telling the inspirational stories of our nation's founding men and women.
Our experiment in self-government depends on educated young citizens who understand our nation's historic journey.
Explore the idea of America with Colonial Williamsburg's electronic field trip series.
Whose outstanding performance of 18th century music will win the votes of students across the nation? Where our 5 finalists from the 18th century are ready to perform. I'm Dan Cross. Are you all excited? Music has enormous power. It can tell us how people feel, about their struggles and desires. It can also tell us a great deal about their history and culture. So, let's get started. Many performers try to impress our judges during the audition process with everything from mouth harps to musical notes never heard before.
My name is Erasmus Tuttle.
Yak-a-doodle, keep it up! Yak-a-doodle, daddy! Mind the music and the steps!
I'll be just fine, thank you.
Providence provides for me, and I am quite content. And a better
I'll be fine, thank you.
I have another. Hey ho,
No, that's
Erasmus.
great. Thank you.
Next.
My name is Thomas Jefferson.
That's
Oh, but wait till you hear this part.
yes, thank you for your time.
Next, please.
I spent 3 weeks rehearsing with the cats. They loved it. I don't care a fig for winning. I'm just happy to be out of the kitchens today.
Oh, what a pity that I could not convince them that I am readily a bowlsmith as I am a wordsmith.
My ears still hurt from that. Thankfully, we're ready to move on to our next finalist. And she comes from the Gentry, or wealthy class of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Please give a big welcome to Miss Karina Sturdy. Now, Karina, you're ready to perform Love is a Gentle, Generous Passion. What can you tell us about this song?
This song is from a popular play, and I enjoy playing popular music from London.
Karina, please step over to your harpsichord while we take a moment to find out why you and other young ladies in the 18th century would take music lessons.
I started playing the harpsichord when I was about 9. My father's position in society allows me to have music lessons, dance lessons, and even to afford a harpsichord. I practice every day, an hour after breakfast and an hour after dinner, but I also play about 1 or 2 nights a week in the evenings with my family. As a young gentlewoman, playing the harpsichord is another accomplishment that I need to help me enter society.
How did Karina do?
She did wonderfully. This is a good example of a popular music from the 18th century. It's music from the theater. Many plays of the 18th century had songs, much like musicals today, and many composers, in order to make some more money, would publish the songs either in collections or as sheet music. Printing offices frequently would publish this music, and young women like Karina would buy the music and put it on their harpsichords to play.
Now, Karina, she's very fashionable. I mean, from the 16th to the 18th century, that harpsichord was only affordable by the most wealthiest planters and merchants in Europe and in the colonies. And not only did they have to buy the instrument, they also had to pay a professional instructor to provide the lessons for these young girls.
Music and dance were such important social skills for young people. Girls, however, almost never learned to play the violin or the flute. Those popular instruments were for boys only, because they both interfered with the loveliness of a lady's face.
Congratulations, Karina, and good luck. If you enjoyed this Queen's British performance, go ahead and cast your votes. 3 more finalists are still waiting to take the stage. Before the end of the show, you will hear 18th century tunes used in military communications, patriotic songs, and much more. We will soon announce who will be your Colonial Idol.
Welcome back. It's time to answer more of your questions. Remember, the volume on your TV or computer should be turned down before your question goes on the air. And don't forget that you can also send questions by email or join the message board. Let's get right to your questions. Our next caller is Kyle from Somerville, New Jersey. Go ahead, Kyle.
Hi, I was just wondering, who taught the slaves the songs that they sing, and did they ever write their own?
Well, the songs that the slaves were singing had more to do with what they were experiencing. They're non-religious music, for instance. It would be similar to rap music. The rap musicians are talking about what they experienced today. The slaves were talking about what they were experiencing as slaves, working in the fields from sun up to sundown. But for the secular music, they were learning that in the church. And they would learn the psalms and the hymns, and then they would take those psalms and hymns and they would Africanize it. They would add their own rhythms to it and create what we call spirituals. So they learned some of the music from what they were learning in the church, and then they reinterpret it for their own culture.
Megan from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Go ahead with your question.
Why didn't the boys play the harpsichord?
Actually, that's a good question. Boys did play harpsichord, maybe not as frequently as girls did, because the most popular instruments for boys were the violin and the flute. Violins and flutes were not considered proper instruments for ladies because they were up around the face. But boys could play any instrument they wanted to. Girls were restricted in their choices, like harpsichord and also something like a guitar.
Mr. Bakari, how is the music of enslaved African Americans preserved?
Well, one way they were preserved was within daily life, work, but also they were preserved within the church. And that music, once it moved from the church, from the secular church to the non-religious community, it began to evolve into blues, jazz, rock and roll, and eventually rhythm and blues, hip hop. And the funny thing about each of those forms, everybody thought that those forms of music were dangerous. What are my children listening to? Oh, I can't understand what they're saying, but the one thing the children said they liked the beat.
That's all the time we have for calls right now. We'll be back in about 5 minutes to answer more of your questions. And we're getting closer to learning who will be your Colonial Idol.
Search for your Colonial Idol. I'm Dan Cross. Our next performers are with the Continental Army in Morristown, New Jersey. They are Joel Owen, Jordan Barton, Chris Hoshella, and Austin Pierce. They are the Corps of Four! Congratulations for being finalists on Colonial Idol. And the four of you are fifers and drummers. You decided to play Yankee Doodle and Greenwood's Jig. Now, most people know Yankee Doodle, but can you tell us who Greenwood was and why he had a jig?
John Greenwood was a patriot from Massachusetts. He was a fifer and the personal dentist to George Washington.
Well, that explains it. While the Corps of Four gets ready for their performance, let's hear about these young men and their duties. Time for assembly.
I joined the military when I was about 13.
Well, when I was 11, my father joined the Continental Army, and I decided to follow along with him as a fifer.
My father is a member of the Continental Army, and my mother is a member of the distaff.
I started playing for the military when I was about 12.
The first time I was in battle was very nerve-wracking. I just kept playing my drum, I did my duties, I kept the men in line, and I kept morale up.
It is hard to concentrate in battle because of the ammunition fire, but I usually just try to focus on my training, and that helps me get through the battle and do my job.
Dan, are you kidding me? These guys out on the battlefield, I mean, with all the cannons and musket balls producing all the smoke on the battlefield, you're going to need the sound of the fife from the drum to cut through all of the noise and all the smoke to give the commands of the officers to retreat, to flank, or even to advance.
Yankee Doodle originally had words written by the British, making fun of the Americans during the French and Indian War. A doodle, for instance, is a foolish person. But the tune was popular, though, and during the Revolution, the Americans changed the lyrics, turned it around to mock the British, and it became the most popular patriotic song.
In addition to serving as communicators in battle, the fifes and drums, of course, also had functions in the camp. For example, the second tune you folks played was Greenwood's Jig, which is obviously a dance, and dance was such a popular and important style of entertainment. And fifes and drums also conveyed important information about camp routines. For example, when to get up, when to eat dinner, when to come back to camp, and when to turn lights out.
Judges, thank you for your comments. Now it's up to our viewers. There's still time to vote for the Corps of Four or any of our other finalists. Their music represents just a few of the cultures found in 18th century America. The instruments, rhythms, and styles of music from that period have blended and transformed over time to help create the many types of music we enjoy today. Who will be the Colonial Idol? We'll find out in a few minutes.
We hope you'll join us on January 17th for the premiere of Research Rescue Squad.
We want to thank all the performers, our 5 finalists, and everyone who voted.
Over 65,000 votes were cast since voting began in October. Now it's time to find out who is going to be the Colonial Idol.
Let's send it back to Dan Cross over in the East Theater.
It's the moment we've all been waiting for. Our 5 finalists are here on stage. In just a moment, One of them will be your Colonial Idol. But no matter who wins, each of them has given a wonderful performance showcasing music from the 18th century. Thank you. And now,